Hello and welcome back on this little series. So last time we created this app, right? It's pretty basic. It's an MD app that creates this simple page that populates from your database MD scroll view with lists that have information of all the information from your database. You can use this search box to filter the informations in your scroll view, and you can remove your filters with this button here. That's where we were at. But now what we want to do is obviously click on one of those and just access a screen that's going to show all the informations from this specific project. So what I'm going to do now is just first create a screen system for my app, and then in the screen system we're going to have the list, and from this list we're going to go to a project screen, and this project screen is going to be populated with informations from my database according to the one project I clicked on. So this is not going to be too complicated, but you've got a few tips and tricks that I picked along the way. I'm not sure it's the best way to do it, but that's how I found out I could do it, so I'm going to share it with you. So first I'm going to create a new class, and this class is going to be my list screen, so the one that we built together. And it's going to inherit from the screen class from KIVY. And I'm also going to create a project screen that's going to also inherit from the screen class in KIVY, and that's not going to do much for now. I'm going to use PyCharm to import this real quick. So kivy.ux.screenmanager.screen. So it means here from kivy.ux.screenmanager import screen. Now this is mainly setup. Now I don't need all this to be in the main app place. What I need to do is to just keep the build function, because that's what's going to start the app. Everything else is going to be on my new screen. So let's copy this and paste it here. No, here, sorry. Okay. Some things to change to begin with is that this on start isn't going to be on start now, because we're accessing a screen which is not starting like an app, and it's going to be on pre-enter. So you've got multiple functions like that. I let you study on screen systems in KIVY and KivyMD, but what that means is that it's going to load those informations before it loads the actual screen, meaning that it's not going to appear all of a sudden on the screen. The screen is going to appear with all of this in it. Okay. So that's what we want here, and in there we're going to run the process in our database system that, remember, populates the database and etc, etc. We're going to loop through our informations and populate the recycle view and the lists, and all of those functions are still here for the search system. What we want to update now is that using a screen system, we cannot just reference things the same way we used to, because here the self.root isn't really linking to the same thing anymore because of the screen system and how it works. So there's a solution I found out for that. So let's organize our list screen so that it works. First of all, we need to inherit from we need to init our class. So if you don't know how that works, go into an object-oriented programming tutorial. We're not going to cover that here. I don't have the time and organization to do this kind of tutorials. We're going to just take the quarks informations, and we're going to call the super, again, object-oriented programming, of my list screen and self. And here I'm going to say dot init of quarks. So that means now that I'm going to take in all the abilities of the parents and supers of my list screen, which is a screen, and give it the abilities to behave like one. Basically, that's what it means. I'm going to add informations to this because I'm going to need at some point to know which screen I am. So what I'm going to do is call self.current screen, and it's going to be equal to none. Okay, because you're going to see later that we need to call the current screen that we're using to adapt a few things. So I'm all set up for this list screen here. It should be okay. Now let's see how we can change our function. So actually, what's going to change here is that on pre-enter, we are gonna run all those, and the problem is that now self.root.ids doesn't really link to the same thing anymore, and this is where we need to adapt self.curScreen. So my self.curScreen on pre-enter, I'm gonna update it and make it become self.parent.getScreen, and then we're gonna call the screen we want to use, which is this screen. So what we're doing here, what we're doing here is just saying that my current screen that I'm using is the list screen from my app, the parent of this screen being the app. I don't know why it works like that, but this is the way I found out to actually call on the IDs of my KIVY file wherever they are within the app, because this way I'm kind of like, I could use the project screen in here and call on the IDs of the project screen and all the variables that are in the project screen from this statement. So it's very useful to understand it and to just use this getScreen function here or in the KIVY file if you ever need it. So it means that now my root here .ids just can be replaced by curScreen. Okay, and do the exact same thing. We're going to call to the container object that we created and add widgets, one list items, and everything like that. Okay, but this is in this thing that we also are going to give the ability to switch screens. So let's do that. So now we're going to create this one list item and we're going to name it this way. But what we want to do is also add a function, and the function is going to happen on release of the button. And on release, what we're going to do is call a function that we're going to create later, well, just now. So I'm going to create it right here so that it's kind of clear for you. We're going to call change screen. It's going to take self and a project ID. Okay, that's going to be a string. And what we're going to do here is changing screen and pass for now. Okay, but what we're going to do here is call self.changeScreen, right? Okay, easy as that. But we've got two main issues. When Python's going to parse the file, it's going to get on this self.changeScreen function and it's going to want to run it. It won't know that this is going to happen only on release because the function exists by itself like that, and so when it's reading it, it's going to try and run it, and obviously your app won't be just parsed yet, so it's going to bug. So the way for you to solve this is to call a lambda function, and if you don't know about lambda function, you need to study it. It's very important and interesting. So it's a local function that we don't have to define. It's just going to happen once and in this place. And the lambda function here is just going to use the x variable that we are not referencing yet. And there's a nice property about that that you're going to see later. And this way, Python is not going to try and run the function as it's passing through the file. It's just going to go through it, be like, oh, okay, it's a lambda function, so it needs to happen here, but I'm not going to make it happen here. And then it's going to go next. So what's next for our change screen to function? Well, we need the project ID. But how do I get that? Well, what you might want to do is use this variable here, project 0, and put it here and be like, well, this is how it's going to happen, right? I'm just going to change screen to the project of this one list item. The issue is that if I was to do this here, every single item in my recycle view would have the same ID as a reference, and it would be the last one, because it's not going to freeze in time the value of your variable at this exact point. It's just gonna say that all the recycle views are gonna have the informations about this variable, and this variable is gonna be unique at every point in time because you're not making it change every time. And so this is not gonna know which exact item it is. So there are various ways that you could like work around this problem. But I just went the easy route because that's not the point of this video. I just removed the ID here, okay, and what I'm doing is just sending x.text because x here is automatically taking the value of the current item we're in, and it's the OneList item. So it means that it's going to send its own text to the change screen function. So this string here. Okay. If you guys have a better idea or know an easy way to go around this, like just put it in the comments. I would like to know that. And so now we can start the function change screen from our recycle view, and we're going to code it. So let's change screen. So my change screen function is going to take a project ID, and what I'm going to do is pass this information and do some work on it. So you could use a regex statement to make something more complicated, but since I made it easier by removing the ID column, what I do is that I simply create a secondary TID, and it's going to take PID, and what I'm going to do is split it, searching for the value here. And so I'm going to split here my string, and I'm just going to get this information here, meaning that all I need to do is to get the first value here, because you get me here that what we're going to get is a list like that of two informations, the first one being my ID, so ID1, and then comma, and we're going to get my name of the project, like this. So when you're doing this, you're just getting the ID right here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is tell the app that what I want to access and what the screen I'm going to open is going to be referencing this project ID. And so what I'm going to do is create a variable at the scale of the app itself. So we're going to go back to our main app, and here we're going to go down and we're going to create a variable that is called project ID, and we're going to set it to none to begin with. But what I'm going to do in here is actually access this project ID variable and change it for the whole app at the same time. So what I want to do is just say mdapp.getRunningApp. So that's self-explanatory function, right? You get the running app object, you can ask stuff from it, but you can also call on the variables in it, just like project ID, and you're going to set it up to be your TID variable that you just created. Okay, and from there, what I want to do is just change my screen. So I'm going to call my current screen, and I'm going to say that my screen is still like here. So I'm going to say self.currentScreen dot manager dot current equal project screen. Okay, so this is the basic code from your current screen to switch to the next screen. And this is all I need to do, because now that my variable is set, I'm gonna go to the next screen, and my new screen, what I want to do is use this project ID variable here to know how to populate. So now let's go to my list screen that I left to my project screen, sorry, that was down there, and we're gonna do the same. We're going to create the project screen, and let me just copy and paste this statement here, and boom, and we're just going to change this with project, and on pre-enter current screen project screen. Looks pretty okay, right? We don't need the process anymore. We are kind of settled. And so in my list screen, what I want to do, in my project screen, sorry, what I want to do is actually just on pre-enter, just populate a few informations. So what I'm going to do here is just wait for now, and we're going to create the KV file of all those so that we have the actual things that we want to populate with information. So let's go in our KV file. Remember, it's just a simple layout like this, and I'm going to turn it into a screen system now. So how are we gonna do that? Well, we don't need to import the screen manager system in the Python file, because all you need to do is just call the screen manager in here, and then down there we're gonna list our screens. So our screen is first the list screen, it's what's gonna open in the app, and then it's gonna be the project screen that we open from the list screen. And to make them recognizable, what we need to do is give them a name. So we're gonna name it list screen, because this way there's no confusion. And here we're gonna name it, you guessed it, project screen, right? And just like that, we created a screen system without even building anything from the Python file. But we still need to add a few features down there, because obviously this box layout that we created is now not referenced anywhere. So let's call it project screen, but with the correct list screen. I'm mixing my names up like this, and then we're going to select all this and tab it one notch, and we're all good. There's another little tweak that we need to do here. It's that the way we reference our app now changed, and this app.search value here that calls on the functions on our main app won't work, just like we had to change them in the Python code. And so what we need to do now is call on the root of this screen, which is the app. Sorry, the root of this widget, which is the screen, and that has a function, right? Same thing with the reset list here. But we shouldn't have to change much more, which leads us to the project screen. So the project screen is gonna have a name. I name my list screen now, I'm gonna name it good. Okay. What else am I gonna put in there? Well, we're gonna start with the MD box layout, and this MD box layout is gonna have an orientation vertical, and then we're gonna create a MD box layout again, and this box layout is gonna have a padding of 35, a spacing of 35, orientation vertical again, and in there we're gonna add an ID label, and this label is just gonna have the ID project name, and we'll say adaptive height is true. I think in the KV file you put capital T, and the text is gonna be project's name. We should never see this because we're gonna change it automatically, but you never know if you're debugging or something. Let's say, just in case, that pos end is gonna be center x 0.5, at least that, and we're gonna set the font to M6 so that we can't miss it, and the horizontal align centered. Then let's add a rectangle flat button. Let's be fancy. MD rectangle flat button, those names, man. We're gonna give it as an ID the project number, or ID, but number fits, I guess. And size hint is gonna be size int x. not says hint, p 0.5, 0.5, and percent is going to be the same here. And standard text should be my project's name. So this should be okay. So let's go back into our main file, and what we're gonna do here is now like change these those two widgets that we created in our screen, and it's gonna be pretty easy because what we're gonna do is call on our database function to fetch informations from this project. Okay, so in a complex app, you might need to have some more complicated function to go and fetch informations, but literally what I need here is just like tournament name, and it's going to be equal to my database file dot get project, and we're going to say that the ID that we're searching for is equal to, you guessed it, self dot MD app dot get running app dot project ID. Okay, which is the main variable we're creating, right? So this is gonna get all the informations we need. Now we need to create this in our database file, but it's pretty basic because if you remember, this is the shape of our database. It's just a PID and a PName. But obviously, like I cannot anticipate for any project that you might want to do. So let's create this get project real quick. So get project, and it's gonna take a ID that's a string, and it's gonna return a list. So what are we doing here? We're gonna call our query. You know what? Let's copy that. I'm just can't be bothered here. Okay, but our query is this time gonna select PID and PName in this order from projects, where it's just PID, so like this equals this. Okay, and now for the detail here, we're gonna keep the PID here in those brackets because I don't remember if I talked about it, but sorry, just ID. But if you don't do that and you're searching for one value and only one value in this kind of query for SQLite, for some reason sometimes it's gonna bug. It needs to be within a tuple, so just make it a tuple. And now what we're gonna get is a list with those informations. Pretty easy query. So now we put this in our tname. Maybe there's gonna be a little issue with the type of all this. So just by security, I'm gonna call it int. Yes, we're gonna call for an int of this. Oh, maybe it's gonna work out. Let's just leave it like this for now. So what will we do next? What we're gonna do next is just call self.ids. Sorry, self.curScreen.ids dot project name dot text is now going to be equal to, well, my tname 0 0, if I remember. I got PID. Yeah, I'm getting PID and PName. So here I'm gonna get project name as P1, and then project ID as 0. Should be like this. Okay. And this should be working, so let's try it out and maybe debug it if there's an issue. so it's buggy. Closing parenthesis in my main.kv file, and yes, you guys must have seen it as I was typing. Line 60. Yeah. Usual typo from me. Oh, I didn't save it. And I copied pasted. Okay, now it says no screen with nameless screen. Did I forget to name it somewhere? You know what? Sometimes things like that happen because the way KIVY is passed and the way like it's reading through the KV files. And I remember solving this in another project by creating an intermediate screen. So let's real quick create a welcome screen. It's gonna be named welcome screen. And we're just gonna create it here real quick. And if it doesn't work, I'll edit this out so you wouldn't be hearing it anyway. And my welcome screen, what am I gonna do? It's just gonna be a MD box layout. Let's copy all of this here up until this. Gonna be called welcome screen. We're gonna have a box layout. We're gonna have a title. About my project, MD box layout. My project app. Vertical, and we're gonna just add a MD rectangle flat button. And it's just gonna say text go to app and on release root.manager.current equal list screen. And don't forget to create my class welcome screen here. That's not gonna do anything. I'm sorry for this, but at the same time, it's kind of how KIVY works. Sometimes it's kind of weird, and I don't have all the details because I'm learning just like you. So I have my button that's hidden right down here. Let's go to app, and it sounds like it's working. I have my list. I can search for it still. Oh no, list screen object has no attribute root. And it comes from main.py line 34. Line 34 is this one, self.curScreen. Yay. Okay, did I miss one? CurScreen. Okay, so don't forget to replace all your roots. CurScreen. By the way, we didn't edit this. That populates in the search engine. So when you search, you're gonna remove this. So let's copy and paste this function. Here. We're gonna add it here and here. Ooh, I removed this at some point and it's gonna be curScreen. Okay, I think I've got them all. Let's try it out. Go to app, search for number 2, search for 0, and reset. Okay, it's working. Now can we go to project number 1? And we can. So what's happening? Oh, it's an SQLite error, get project return because blah blah blah. Line 44 operational error. So let's check this out. Oh, I've got this. Okay. Are we good now? Go to app, project number 1. Still no. Super object has no. Oh. And we're back, and I just retyped the screen, this definition, and now it works. So I'm sorry guys, I don't have an explanation for this super issue. But at least now it's working. What I did here is also just clean up a little bit of those, and I realized that those self.ids, variables, widget name here, they work on the functions that define your own screen, so the onPreEnter, init method and stuff like that. They just don't work in your custom functions. So keep that in mind. You need to identify the screen in your custom functions, but on the core functions, the methods from the screen, you don't have to bother. IDs work. So now you can see that the code didn't change like crazy anywhere, right? I just retyped this one screen and changed its position for convenience. So let's try it out. We go to our app and we're going to click on project number 6, and boom, 6, project number 6. We've got this big button here, but it's working. So yeah, that's how you populate your screen with those informations. Obviously, I'm not a master of KIVY, so those little issues I had, I'm gonna keep so that you guys see some kind of debugging. But it's things I've already spent time fixing before, so yeah. That's it for our little example here. Obviously, you could be doing way more complex stuff, but I wanted to cover that in a video that's not too long, and I feel like it's gonna be a little long anyway, so I'll see you around. Cheers.